Hello, and welcome to this video, Introduction to the Pyramid Model. The intent is to introduce the model to educators, professionals who support educators in a range of roles and ways across the state of Connecticut, and families. Before we get into content, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this presentation and the corresponding effort to support Pyramid Model throughout the state of Connecticut is coordinated by the Parent, Infant, and Early Childhood team within Innovations Institute at the University of Connecticut School of Social Work, and done in partnership with the state leadership team, also known as the Connecticut Pyramid Model Partnership. And all of this work and the vision for Pyramid within Connecticut is funded and supported and led by the Office of Early Childhood. If we have not had the opportunity to meet you yet, it's great to do so via this video and hopefully lots of opportunity for follow-up based on your interests and abilities. But the PEAK team, or Parent, Infant, Early Childhood team, is behind this work within Connecticut. My name is Kate Sweeney. I'm top left right there, and I co-direct the PEAK work with Dr. Margot Candelaria. She oversees evaluation and research efforts with a team of researchers behind her to support that work. And I oversee the programmatic and workforce efforts. On my team, as you see here, is Rachel Vanetta. She is our implementation program director. Liz Chambers is a pyramid model program manager, and Liz Hoy is a senior program specialist working to coordinate and organize our efforts. Our objectives or goal for this brief video is to first introduce you to the model, second, to demonstrate how pyramid model fits into all settings where young children and their families and those that care for them are present. Third is to explain what pyramid model looks like in Connecticut and the resources that are available to you through the OEC support. And four is to offer places for you to get more information or engage in pyramid model activities. A little bit of background around the model. So the model began with federal funding in 2001 with the Center on the Social Emotional Foundations for Early Learning. It used to be called CSEFL. The funding came from braided funding from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Administration for Children and Families. In 2008, the Office of Special Education Programs funded expansion of the work through the development of the Technical Assistance Center on Social and Emotional Interventions for Young Children, used to be called TAXI. All of this was facilitated in partnership with expert teams across a range of university leads, both at Vanderbilt and University of South Florida. And today, as we speak, Pyramid is now rolled out into 43 states in the United States and a number of other countries as well. And the work continues to roll out. The National Center for the model continues to release new materials and supports to advance this work for families, for educators, and caregivers in a range of settings, including home visiting and early intervention. OEC's commitment to the pyramid is strong and statewide. They view the pyramid model as a foundational framework for their efforts to do the three things you see on the screen: to help early childhood educators, to support behavioral health of children and families within their care, to promote best practices to build children's social emotional competence and skills as they would then enter school age and build upon those things. And importantly, also to reduce the use of practices such as suspension and expulsion that exclude children from early care and educational programs. This is a visual of the pyramid model. If you haven't seen it before, it is logically shaped like the pyramid, focusing or utilizing a public health approach to have efforts at the foundation around an effective workforce, and we'll talk through the tiers in just another minute as well. The goal of the pyramid, and this slide is from NCPMI, or the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovation, is to ensure that every child has the support, experiences, relationships, opportunities, guidance, and instruction to thrive in their social emotional development and learning. Many people think about pyramid as something that's focused on challenging behaviors or problematic behaviors or concerning kids. And really, as you can see through that definition, when you are in the work of implementing pyramid model within a school setting or home setting, it really is actually all about scaffolding and focusing on adult practices to support positive social and emotional development, so that children don't get to a place where they have to express their dysregulation or frustration in a way that's not productive or okay for the setting that they're in. A few principles that underpin the pyramid model itself. The pyramid model rests on a foundation of inclusivity, cultural responsivity, anti-racist, and anti-bias practices. This is incredibly important as one of the vehicles of pyramid is really to support children to be maintained and supported and successful within learning centers and other community-based activities, and that all of those things, when we're applying them, makes that possible. Another principle is that social and emotional development is foundational for all other developmental domains. One of the things that we teach, and is sort of one of the mantras of pyramid, is that you have to, think about and support and teach social and emotional skills the same way that you would other developmental skills or other academic acquisitions. And when that's in place, many of the other things fall into place because children are calm and naturally learning from their environments. A third principle of the model is that children need to be taught social emotional skills, just like they need to be taught reading, math, and motor skills. One of the mantras of pyramid you see here is behavior is communication. So often, as adults, especially overwhelmed adults, when there is a moment of challenging behavior with a young child or several of them, we're looking at the consequence or sort of the result of the behavior. And what pyramid helps you do is think about behavior as communicating a need, and how do we understand that need so that we can prevent the behavior rather than react to the response or the result. And the final principle of pyramid model is that pyramid model practices are focused on adult behavior. When adult behavior changes and really sort of scaffolds environments that are naturally supportive, child behavior changes as well. Um, Many things, including, the key takeaways from the pyramid model trainings, is that what's really introducing a paradigm shift. So what you see in the sort of lighter gray boxes on the left is sort of a more traditional or classic way that we think about young children's development, and within home and family and educational settings. And the orange boxes on the right is the paradigm shift or the new way of thinking when you apply a pyramid model lens to the work. So I'll just walk you through those. On the left, you see that the focus is on cognitive and motor development. That's sort of the traditional way of thinking about, how are we assessing school readiness, or sort of what we expect to see out of a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year old. And the paradigm shift is that instead, if we focus on social and emotional development, the capacities of those other developmental domains really come into play and come on board naturally because the foundation is strong. Another paradigm shift is that the expectation that children will naturally learn social and emotional skills. And much of pyramid, in fact, really all of tier two, is really about how do we intentionally, proactively teach these strategies, practice them, praise them, and then understand that kids can use them once that's all done. The same way that you would for anything else, like learning to read. The third sort of paradigm shift opportunity is that most adults, unless they have the opportunity to be trained and coached in pyramid model, are reacting in the moment to challenging behavior. And again, if you think about challenging behavior as communication, we need to sort of decode what that behavior is communicating. And so the shift that pyramid offers is that it creates a proactive solution to address what the challenging behavior is communicating. It's more effort on the front end to either significantly reduce or sort of not have that behavior happen at all, rather than responding to the consequence or the fallout of the behavior in the moment and after. And the final paradigm shift of pyramid model is that we're not seeing challenging behavior as intentional. And many sort of intended adults will see challenging behavior as intentional. They'll say, he knows the rules, or she did this yesterday, right? Thinking that a child is choosing to initiate, this negative moment. And really, again, if we think about challenging behavior as communication, or any behaviors as communication, in a challenging moment, the paradigm shift is that challenging behavior is communicating a need. And our response to a need is so different, right? The next two slides walk you through an infographic that our team at UConn School of Social Work developed and released throughout the state to kind of orient both educators and family members and those in the field that support educators around the model. So you can see the visual of the pyramid is there, and we talk in pyramid language about tiers. You can see the base of the pyramid, or the yellow, is explained as support and coaching for teachers. So it's seen as an effective workforce, that when teachers and childcare providers and educators and others working with kids and families have the opportunity to be trained and coached in pyramid model practices, there's a strong foundation for a developmentally appropriate and socially emotionally anchored environment for kids to learn. And so you're naturally going to reduce some of these instances of challenging behavior or struggling moments naturally. Tier two, or sort of the dark teal, as you can see, I'm sorry, tier one, is safe and compassionate environments for all children. So this is really focusing on relationships and environment, to have security within the interactions, and to have an environment that's set up in consideration of the developmental and social emotional needs of children within that setting. Tier two, again, so going just one up, the middle green in the pyramid, is focusing on effective teaching and learning strategies. So that, again, the strategies and concepts around both targeted and group-wise, intentional teaching and practicing, and praise when it happens of social skills. And this can be done through every interaction within your day with a child. It can be done through labeling emotions in the moment. It could be done through games, through literature, etc. So a lot of this is just how do we infuse our day with moments to teach and reinforce and practice social and emotional skills, including friendship skills, their own managing their own emotions, understanding the rules of an environment, and things like that. And then tier three, or the top of the pyramid, is when those things are in place and there are kids that are still having intensive and persistent challenging behaviors. That's when a team would really look at individualized intervention for children who need it. Knowing that if we just go there right away and not have the foundation of an effective workforce and environments that are teaching these practices and anchored in relationships and environments that have structure and consistency, then it's going to be a lot of effort at the top for not a lot of response, because all of those things are part of what children are responding to in those moments. So when you look at a teacher or an educator that has gone through pyramid model training and coaching, you see these changes here, and they're sort of enumerated on the screen, and I'll talk them through for you. But you see strategies to develop positive relationships with all children, right? So it's a lot of what adults are doing, whether we're in our parenting or family role or our educator role, is giving instruction, right? But when you see a lot of sort of back and forth communication and responsiveness to a child's bid for attention, that's when you're building your relationship with kids. And so you'll see a lot more attention to those efforts. When you walk into a classroom where pyramid model is implemented, you see use of consistent classroom schedules with routines that children are supported in engaging with and reviewed. So it's not just about having the schedule up in the corner that's never reviewed because the teachers think, well, it's March, and so the kids know by now, but it's how do you go over the schedule every day to reinforce a children's competence of what their day is, to discuss when there's changes in the schedule, to practice all of those types of things. You see more clear communication of developmentally appropriate behavior expectations. So we as adults kind of understand when we're going from a place, perhaps the playground or a gym where you're able to run and jump and be loud with friends. And then we're transitioning into the hallway where we have to walk quietly because there's other things happening, into lunch or sort of, another activity where there's a different expectation. We kind of are able to, for the most part, sort of tailor our behavior, modulate our regulation, to sort of read the room and comply to those things. And we underestimate the need for sort of both sort of program-wide, community-wide behavior expectations and the expectations of a given interaction or place to be just shared and discussed with kids. So you'll see teachers and family members, when pyramid mid-model has been part of what they've learned, just discuss appropriate behavior expectations with kids much more often. And again, a very pro-social, preventative way. You'll see conversations throughout the day about emotions, how to cope with uncomfortable feelings. There's lots of opportunities throughout the day to say, we were going to go and do this outside now, and it looks like it's cloudy and might rain, so I'm pretty disappointed about that. You know, what can we do to make our day better? Again, it's not just about labeling or expressing emotions when there is a big incident, but how do you find ways to just talk about the full range of emotions as they come up throughout the day, so that children have access to them and have the opportunity to practice them and aren't asked to first label or identify their emotion when they're upset or in trouble. A couple of the other things that you see from teachers who've been trained in pyramid are that they support initiating play among kids. Really, sort of, they're armed with strategies um, around supporting the development and scaffolding of peer negotiation, peer skills, understanding that if I knock over a friend's, book tower, that they're going to be upset, and what must that feel like for them, right? So you see them really sort of scaffolding and supporting peer interactions in many ways. And again, not just the same way that you naturally discuss emotions more, they're naturally just talking through problem solving as a skill that's developed. And when all of these things are consistent and in place, and a child still struggles, you'll see that again that top of the pyramid, or tier three, individualized behavior support plans being analyzed and written and put into place, and to support the teacher and that child to be successful. And lastly, but very, very importantly, is you see an increase in intentionality around regular bidirectional communication with children's families, where successes are highlighted, so that they're not just, hearing from you when there's an ask or a request or a concern. Um, Again, looking a little bit at sort of what pyramid looks like within the home. So, as I said earlier, this work started at the national level in 2001, and they've done a lot in the recent years to really support this, to not just be for educators, for early intervention providers, for home visitors, for family home child care providers, but also for families. So there's direct interventions and support for families, and you see these changes in practice. So when families are implementing pyramid model or have learned about it and have had some support with it, you see that that they model more to help children practice the skills that they need by naming and describing feelings, by building regulation strategies into your day, by practicing and praising positive friendship skills, and by teaching and practicing problem skills. So many of those same things that I mentioned that you see an increase in within the classroom, you're going to see it within just the family home routines as well. There's more of a focus on predictive and supportive environments and letting children know what to expect. So more of a structure and practice, and maybe even some signage to support bedtime routines or morning routines, brushing your teeth, etc. Some visual schedules or sort of choice boards, again, to kind of structure the day and expectations for a child, and when available and appropriate, some child-friendly spaces, so that again the child is able to be successful within that environment. And then really a focus on relationships and building trust, safety, and belonging. So positive attention during daily routines, again, so praise and that sort of bi-directional communication around an activity, listening and following their lead while playing together. And there have been so many studies that even an increase of 5 or 10 minutes of a family member following a child's lead during play can really do so much for their relationship. So often with young kids, we're telling them when to go, where to go, and how to get there all day. And so if you're able to engage with them, if they come up to you and say that they're a cat, or they're playing with their car, toy, or truck, how do you sort of follow their lead or ask them questions, and let them lead that moment. And then again, it's warmful play interactions, which often are made so much easier when part of what families learn about through pyramid model is the social and emotional developmental expectations of kids at a given age. Because we often in our society know a lot about developmental expectations, or typically within like gross motor, fine motor. We know when kids generally walk and stand and talk and sit, but the sort of unseen, like what is their social and emotional capacity or task that they should be doing or could be doing at this time, a lot of families, unless they're specifically um, trained or have the right books to learn that, so don't know that naturally. So you see an increase in warm and playful interactions when there's more knowledge around those things. Okay, now a little bit about pyramid model landscape in Connecticut and how you can get involved. At the state level, there is a state leadership team that convenes monthly to support the advancement of practices and policies aligned with pyramid. And that is including members that are part of the training and coaching network, that are part of implementation sites, that are at key agencies, including OEC and Department of Education, for this work. We are also doing a lot of work to align pyramid and other OEC initiatives, for early care and education and behavioral health, to show that this is something that is not additive or an additional task, but really aligns with things like CTLs and Elevate. There's a statewide network of pyramid model trainers and coaches that our team at UConn supports and oversees, and tracks their work and efforts. There's a cohort of implementation sites, both center-based and in both center-based programs and family childcare homes. There's a cohort of Latino families serving Spanish language speaking providers and coaches. We have translated a number of materials and training content and one pagers for families and providers and coaches, because there is such a strong cohort of Spanish language need in the state that is plugged into pyramids so strongly, which is really great to see. Um, just this past year, we initiated a pilot of the state's first Pyramid for All community-wide implementation effort, and I'll tell you about that in just another slide. And we also launched this past year the first cohort of Positive Solutions for Families facilitators, and those are folks that are now officially trained to facilitate group training series for families. And it's a really great model where that happens not only in educational settings, but in family resource settings, in libraries, in a range of community and family spaces. This is just another illustration of pyramid model offerings in Connecticut. So similarly to the model itself, that at the base, we first have to get awareness of pyramid model out there. So we have a series of monthly pyramid practice webinars that are free to anyone that would want to join on just a given topic. It's an hour a month that looks into things like infusing social emotional skills into play was our offering in July, or the importance of routines. And then we also have a monthly newsletter that is an easy way to kind of just keep track of what's coming out, what's being offered, what's shareable, and how to know what's going on. At the next level for family supports, as I just shared, the positive solutions for family groups are the most direct way to support families with the model. There's also a number of sort of pyramid at home and Tucker at home resources that we are rolling out within the community-wide model pilot that I'll share about in just 1 minute, but hope to get further dissemination of throughout the next year and a half. When you look at model dissemination, there is a cohort of trainers and coaches for the various trainings. So there's a family childcare specific training, there's an infant and toddler classroom specific training, and then a preschool classroom specific training. And we have a number of folks that are, as you said, sort of supported in the national training model through our team. And then at the highest level, so once you've kind of done all those things, there are a cohort of implementation sites, and they're assigned, funded by the Office of Early Childhood and overseen by our team at UConn. They're assigned a pyramid model coach and trainer that pushes into their program, supports classroom practices, supports their leadership team with program-wide sort of policies and supports to make the work of implementing pyramid part of their specific agency or program. The current cohort is illustrated here. So as I said, there's family child care providers that are Spanish speaking Latino family serving. There's currently 17 implementation sites, many of whom actually just graduated for the first time. So we graduated our first cohort of family child care implementation sites, and they're supported by 5 Spanish speaking pyramid model advocates and coaches with family child care expertise as well as pyramid model expertise. And then on the childcare sort of center program side, there are 11 childcare implementation sites actively supported by 8 pyramid model coaches. And those range in the landscape across the state, both geographically as well as sort of type of childcare. So some are, very small, 2 or 4 classroom community-based centers. Some are parts of public school systems. Some are, Head Start locations, et cetera. So it really ranges the gamut, as does Pyramid Model. And as I teased earlier, we received funding and support and a request from OEC this year to launch the first community-wide pilot. And this is something that the national team and several other states are leaning towards. And it's this idea of not just having these practices and all of the sort of coaching happening within a given school or program, but having a whole community take it up. So we've partnered with the Northeast Corner, the 7 towns that you see highlighted in teal in the logo there, and the NEC, so their Early Childhood Council, EastCon, which is where our pyramid model coaches are within that region, and Killingly Public Schools, who's actually moving. They now have embedded coaches not only in their early care and education offerings within Killingly, but in their kindergarten first, and this coming school year it will also be in 2nd grade. They'll have dedicated coaches within that are full-time Killingly Public School employees within that to sort of support pyramid model practices within those settings. And within this community-wide offering, there's also just the opportunity to have a lot of different supports for families. So we dropped off Pyramid at home and Tucker the Turtle kits within each of the 7 libraries within the towns, so that librarians could infuse it within their toddler story time offerings, and families could actually check them out and use them within their home setting. We have some plans to engage home visitors and pediatricians in the region as well. And so again, it takes it from a individual school or program trying to do this lift to all of the positive things when you have a whole community that is looking to engage in an effort at the same time. And just to close out this video, and thank you again for your interest in pyramid model within Connecticut. This QR code here will take you to a Padlet that has links to all of the things that some of which I've referenced already, including our newsletter and the pyramid practice webinar recordings. Through the community-based pilot, we also are launching a series of sort of very brief, like 8 or 10 minute recordings for families. So that link is there as well. The first two were around how to support routines within your home and how to support behavior expectations with your young child. If you're in the Northeast corner, you can check out any of those 7 libraries to see Tucker the Turtle. And ctoec.org/pyramid is the easiest way to get any ongoing updates about pyramid in the state. If you were to do just one thing, this is one of the one-pagers that our team has developed that introduces pyramid model and Tucker the Turtle, which is sort of the mascot for the model. And the QR code there is a really great video of Tucker's story and how to use that strategy with very young kids in whatever role you have with them. So if you were to do one thing, I would say start there. And you can reach us anytime. So peak, P-I-E-C, at uconn.edu. We'll get to our whole team if you have questions, ideas, or requests of our team. Thank you so much for your time.